And we're live. Thank goodness. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Q&A&Critique number 95. We're nearly hitting the big 100, but that doesn't make today any less special. Why? Because today is the Splashscreen Competition Winners Announcement Day. So today is a little bit of a deviation away from the typical questions and answers and things like that. But we're here with most of the artists who have submitted their splash screens. And we have a very thorough evaluation that I spent a couple of hours of doing and humming and hawing about. And now we're going to go through the art and announce the winners. So the current prizes that we're going to be announcing today for the winners in first place is the Tradigitalist pack. So the Tradigitalist tool bag pack is a Painterly MPR effect toolkit with about 5 different add-ons by Alan Watt. And you also get the FX nodes. And last but not least, you get featured in a software splash screen. So here we have, if we go into the splash screen of B4Artist, our last feature was by Timon Mueller, which we have interviewed here before. But first place, you become the next splash screen for B4Artist 3.6.0 based on Blender 4.000. So stay really tuned. Second place, we also have the prize of 30 bonus points, which actually could be a guaranteed win for the next competition, and the FX Nodes pack. And third place, you also get another 30 points, but no extra add-on, which means you have a competitive edge with the second place to come in as the next splash screen of B4Artists 4.00 later at the end of this year. So stay very tuned. We had 11 submissions, which is quite a few, a lot more than I was expecting. A lot of them shared their splash screens. And as you know before, if you used B4Artist in some way for the final render or loaded your scene in it, you get 10 extra points. In total, there are 100 points or 100% that you can earn. And some of them, most of you had above 50, 60 points. And some of you even got up to 90 points. So that's quite a high grade of art submitted by all of you. And I am extremely honored by everything that you have done. So the format for today is we're not going to announce the winner until the end. And then we'll hand out the prizes. But until then, we're going to take a very close look at every piece and take a look at the evaluation of how we're evaluating each piece and why. And we're going to start in alphabetical order. So from here, we're going to start with Elena. So Elena's piece here has been, well, I guess we could start talking about the general points. And if you keep in tally, this is where you can start to see who is going to be winning. So the competition was very difficult for me to understand which was going to be the best because art is very subjective, quality as well. So I had to break down my 4 columns. So the first one was the 10% B4Artist bonus, and the next was the technical skill. So the technical skill is something that is a little bit subjective. So it's based on my opinion to some degree. But on top of that, we also have a little bit of, let me just say, that's at the, sorry, let me just clear that up. The technical skill is basically 20%. So there's an ability of 20% that could come into mind. And from there, we have aesthetics, which could be a total of 30%. And from there, we have originality, which comes at 40%. So the first that we have is Elena. So I had a difficulty evaluating on these 4 columns, so I broke it up into 3 more columns, or 6 more columns instead of these 2 to kind of get a better idea. And from there, we have originality, style, story, composition, lighting, and detail. So Elena's piece got a quite high score when it comes to detail. This really spoke out to me based on the texture of the paint, the textures on the bowl, the textures on everything else. The detail was the brush strokes on the shadows, the lighting, all of this was absolutely nice. So I gave this a 7 out of 10. So well done, Elena. I thought this was really good. And, oh, Chris has mentioned that he forgot to do your submission with the new cloud shader. And also, you're not allowed to use other server emojis? Strange, I'll have to fix that after this particular chapter. Alright, so with that, the lighting in this particular piece, I did find it a little bit flat. Usually when I work with these pieces, I go into the compositing, I load up the picture. So if we take a look at the submission here, we load up the picture. I check out the black and white to RGB node, which is a very simple way to check out hue, saturation, and value. And it's okay. But when it comes to lighting, the contrast, the language of it, with the lack of background and things like this could have improved. So I gave it 5 out of 10. When it comes to compositing, I found the piece worked with the composition of the before I had a splash screen, and there's space for everything, and it looked okay. But I found it a little bit not that dynamic, or it could improve with the dynamics. So, but it's still pretty okay. So it was 6 out of 10. When it came to story, I know this is a still life. So when it comes to story, usually you focus on trying to tell something happened in the past, there's something in the present, and there's something that may happen in the future. There is a timeline inside of a still image, which is very difficult to do. And being a still image, well, we have the fruit in the bowl. So out of the story, I evaluated it 2 out of 10 because it is a still life. But that's still okay. It's still good. Concerning style, excellent style. I love the style. But when it comes to style, it's a 9 out of 10. Very good. And for originality, being a still life with lemons and things, I've seen this a lot. So as a subject piece, it got 7 out of 20. In total, Elena, you've done a pretty good average, and you're at 52 points. Up next, we have Chris Brad. So Chris, are you ready for this? Hopefully it's not too brutal. Yes, it is a very nice image, Slink says. He really loves it, but the background is bland, which is a black background. So, but it's still a very nice image. So Chris is getting ready, so let's go. So Chris, your piece here with your splash screen, you developed this inside of Blender, which is perfectly fine, but that unfortunately sets you back 10 points. But your image was really good. So let's start from the back. Concerning technical skill, I thought it was quite good. I mean, technically it's very hard to do these clouds. I know that you follow and work with Samuel Krug, and his work is very technical, but you managed to work it as well. It's a very high definition detail on the actual planet, and your lens flares and details of the stars and things are quite nice. So technically, you got quite high, the 17 out of 20. Concerning detail, I thought the detail was quite good as well, 7 out of 10. Concerning the clouds, the shadows, and all the city lights and things. When it comes to lighting, I also thought it was very well done, especially with the horizon event. So I gave you out of 10. When it comes to composition, the piece works with the logo. The logo worked fine, and it was really good. So I gave you out of 10. When it comes to story, though, I found it a little bit difficult. And I also docked a little bit of your composition because it would have been nice to see the planet, sun, or the star that's lighting it up. Or it could have been a little bit nice to kind of make the angle a bit more dynamic instead of one half empty, one half full, almost. So to work the little bit of Fibonacci, work the dynamics of how you balance the weight of the space and the planet could have been improved. That's one small thing. When it comes to story, I gave you 4 out of 10. There is a good story here, but it could have had a lot more story in it if we knew what the planet's about, what's happening over the planet. One thing that I really liked about Samuel Krug's latest pieces that he's been doing is he's created a planet effect with a black hole in the distance and the spaceships flying towards it. There is a story happening there. In this particular piece, I'm not sure what the story is. So 4 out of 10. Could improve. But story is a difficult thing, I know, but you did really good render. When it comes to style, I gave you 8 out of 10. Style is very good. When it comes to realism, I noticed that maybe it's not the highest grade of atmospheres that I've seen, but it is a very good one. And last but not least, when it comes to originality, I do like it a lot, and I gave you 9 out of 20. Slink. In total, let's keep it a little secret, but you're in the mid-average of points, which is actually, well, I'll tell you why not. 61 points out of 100. There we go. So Chris, you want realism, you did all right. So here we have Slink. So Slink, I chose the piece with the pixelated shader effect as the final piece. You did 2 submissions. This one's really nice. And you also did this one in Blender, which unfortunately was a 10%. You missed out on those 10 points, but that's okay. So here we have the lighthouse, and it looks pretty cool. So let's take a look at your points. Are you ready, Slink? And also, Chris, give me some feedback. How does it feel? Was that feedback okay? Hope so. Now we're going on entry number 3. All right, good. I'm glad you liked it, Chris. I hope it helps. Your planet renders are second to best to Sam, and I'm sure you as the apprentice and working on his stuff, you do really good as well. And yes, I really would love to see the new cloud shader that you have prepared for the next one. Okay, so Slink, let's go. So Slink, my notes for you. We're going to start. We have the technical skill. So I thought your technical skill concerning the compositing, concerning the models, making the kind of PlayStation vibe, and the general working the normals and the shaders and things like this, it was pretty high average. So I gave you 12 out of 20. When it comes to detail, I really like the detail on the lighthouse, the windows, the little things down here. It's very low poly, working in the shaders here. So I gave you, but a little less detail in some things than others. So I gave you 6 out of 10. But it is still quite good, so higher than the low average. When it comes to lighting, I noticed that it is part of the style, but they could have worked a little bit, maybe the style was a little limiting in this case. But so I'm evaluating this based on values and based on color. If we take a look here, we can see in black and white, I'm going to use the same color techniques. We're going to load this up here in the black and white shaders here. Load this up into here. Take a closer look. When it comes to values, you are bordering on, there is some contrast on the lighthouse. So this part here is very good. But the rest of it, for example, around the island, the background color with your current floating island could have improved a little bit. So the colors, there is a color contrast, but the luminance may need some improvement there. So to help you read the island, you could maybe saturate the green a bit more, or make it a little bit darker, or make the background a little darker than the center island, which has a lighter color. So when it comes to lighting, this is where things could improve. So in total, I gave you 5 out of 10. So you were close to getting good, but you were missing a lack of contrast. So there's some room to improve. So Slink mentions there is technically 0 lights. So this is why I'm evaluating based on values. Okay, but it's good. Up next is story. So this case, I liked the story that you have. There's like a fishing rod. There is also the lighthouse with the light. In general, something's happening. Maybe somebody's living there. Maybe the person's gone into the lighthouse for something coming closer. They don't hit it. The story has huge potential. So I gave you 5 out of 10. And when it comes to style, I really like the style that you worked with. I felt a little bit of inconsistency with the painted trees on billboards versus the low poly aspects of everything else, but it's still quite good. So I gave you 8 out of 10. So you hit your target. The style is quite good. And when it comes to originality, well, I think it's quite an original idea. So I gave you 10 out of 20. That's 5 out of 10. So that's pretty good. Next up, would you like to know the final score? In this case, you are a close runner-up to Elena. She had 52 points. You got 50 points. So very close. Very good competitive edge out of 100. So I know next time you do it, I've seen your work. I've seen you do other pieces as well. You've got huge potential. And I'd love to see more of your submissions in the future. I'm sure you can get in here. Keep at it. So this was Slink's piece. So from there, now we're on to Kumarai. The Kumarai is not connected here at the moment. And this was quite a hard piece to judge. Very hard. But let's take a closer look. So Kumarai's piece did use B for artist. So he has a 10-point advantage. So he took the screen capture with the piece inside of B for artist, which is nice. You can tell by the colored icons. And the final piece is one of them that we've showcased a couple of times here in the past to Q&As. And this piece has a lot of detail. So we've got 10 points on B for artist and we have 20 points on technical skill. Concerning technical skill, I consider this quite a challenging piece when it comes to hard surface modeling, the detail, the time frame that he had, the lighting, the dust particles, the shaders, the materials on the shaders, the composition. I consider this relatively quite a complex technical piece, and Kumarai did a really good job. So I gave it 20 out of 20. It was nice. When it comes to detail, out of all the pieces that were submitted, this probably had the highest amount of detail when it comes to modeling and shaders and details of the actual assets. So I gave this 10 out of 10. Quite high. When it comes to lighting, it was okay. It was good. Relatively good. The subject was well lit. But if we take a closer look, there are some things that could improve. So the lighting, when it comes to the gray values and the saturated colors, the background could have been darker and the arm could have been lighter, which was unfortunate because the composition was relatively good and everything was fine. This could have pushed him into the lead. He was this close. But because of this value issue and readability issue, because of so much detail, the contrast between the background and the foreground needs to be explicitly clear so that we focus only on the main subject as a general silhouette and not get lost in the detail. So that is something that we need to keep in mind when we're designing things with a lot of detail. So when it comes to, but in general, the lighting, the rim lighting, the depth of the scene and everything like that, I thought was pretty good. So I gave this 8 out of 10 when it comes to lighting. When it comes to composition, it was good. It's a good image. The composition is relatively good, but I did find it a little bit difficult to fit in the logo without a little bit of overlap onto the bright light, which was a little difficult to read on the text. So I couldn't give you the highest score when it comes to composition. Maybe you could have lowered the arm to the bottom right just a little bit. But with that, it's still quite a high score of 8 out of 10. When it comes to story, this had quite a high score because I noticed the actual arm, this pointy thing at the top here, the lenses that are broken, the dust floating around, the green kind of toxic atmosphere. I don't know what's going on, but I really do want to know what's going on. And because of the light is piercing the atmosphere and things like this, something is happening. This is here for a reason. So concerning story, I really liked it. Really liked the age, but it's still being cleaned a relatively surgical manner. And I gave it 9 out of 10. I quite like this story. When it comes to style, when it comes to realism and rendering with the lens effects here and all of that, the realism I consider it quite well executed. So that was 10 out of 10. When it comes to originality, I have seen similar styles like this, but when it comes to the actual implementation of the lenses, the light, the kind of steampunk modern vibe, but not, with the kind of cyberpunk vibe, but it's not. I consider the originality quite high in all the pieces and things as well. So I gave this 18 out of 20, which puts Kumarai at quite a high ranking. In this case, since he's not here, I will not tell the high ranking yet. I'll save that for last. And Slink also gave us a video version of this lighthouse, which is here. Just download it. Give me a second. So we can take a closer look. Here it is. Still loading. There it is. So here is the animated version. I wish splash screens could be animated. That would be really nice. It's cool how you did the raycasting system. Wonder how you did that. The billboards look great when they're moving. So good work, Slink. Okay, so that's Kumarai's points. We'll leave the final points for later. So Marty Fouts is here in the audience. So Marty, would you like me to tell you your final score at the end of this? Or sure, okay, good. And also my question about how you did the raycast, Link has given us an answer, and it's literally a giant hidden mesh that is a boolean on the cone. Good, yeah, practical, to the point. Nice. Okay, so this piece by Marty Fouts was a combination of multiple models, and this was also created in B4Artist, which I'm glad you did. Tip in the future, this little gray bar at the top of the toolbar, because this is an editor and it's saved at a relatively tall monitor, but some monitors are bigger. So if you're using like a large 4K monitor, which I think you are, this will expand. This is a problem with Blender. But you can always drag the edge of the editor and collapse it whenever you want. This toolbar also, you can change it to be anywhere you want. You could put it to the bottom, put it to the side here. You could put it anywhere you want, really. So if you want two toolbars at the top, you can. But if you see this gray bar, you can just collapse and save the startup file underneath edit, save startup. And then it's good to go. That's a side tip. All right, so Marty, let's get into your piece. Are you ready? I hope so. So, the B4Artist bonus. You got 10 points. So that's good for using that. I'm very happy you did. Concerning technical skill, I've noticed that the cup, the anvil, the sword was also from another tutorial, and the donuts was based off a tutorial. And the background is in HDRI. But when it comes to technical skill, this seems like I had to unfortunately keep it quite low. I know you did a good job on the sword especially, but I gave you 7 out of 20 when it comes to skill. When it comes to detail, I gave you an average of 5 out of 10. The detail on the sword is quite nice. I like it a lot. Everything else is relatively on par. That's okay. When it comes to lighting, the backlight, the show onto the sword, I thought was quite good. So, but when it comes to composition and telling the story, I had to dock it down a little bit. And it also is in HDRI when it comes to the render. So I had to drop the lighting to 6 out of 10. When it comes to composition, it's relatively good, passable, but I'm not sure what is the story or the general goal of your image. In this case, I gave it 5 out of 10. This was going to be probably the most brutal, but I'm happy you competed. Because guess what, everybody? Everyone who competed today, just a small interlude, everyone. I know this is going to sound like a bit of a participatory thing, but we have a surprise gift by one of us here, Plebes, who's going to be sharing something with you at the end of the show. Stick around, and we have an extra surprise gift for everyone who participated. And if you're not here today, hopefully I can ping you in Discord with that final little gift, because the very fact that you put yourself out there to play is worth a cool challenge. So not only is there first place, second place, and third place, there is a participation prize. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Yes. All right, so back to you, Marty. So with that, your composition, lighting, and detail concerning technical technique has room to improve, but it was a good attempt. With story, unfortunately, the sword stabbed into the anvil with the donut there. I'm not sure what the story is, so it is 3 out of 10. There is potential for a story, but I'm not sure where it's going to go. When it comes to style, the style was a mixture of a hyper-realistic HDRI with 3D assets, which requires a little bit of a push or an edge to get the realism. So the style is 3 out of 10. And when it comes to originality, these were assets created from tutorials that I've seen before. I had to put quite a low score there of 4 out of 20. So yes, I know it's brutal, but you do have room to improve, and it wasn't at a loss. So your final score is 43 out of 100. So not too bad. You did okay. Harsh but fair. All right. All right, study pad. That's right. You get a surprise if you part. Harsh but fair. Harsh but fair, yes. But good. I'm happy you played, Marty, and I would hope to see more of your work soon. So don't be discouraged. I'm happy using Beefroiders. I'm happy going through the techniques. I do want to see you. Like, you worked the composition. The composition has huge amounts of potential if you threw in a bit more of a intentional story. We're going there. Okay, so the next piece is by Mohammed Emin, who's not here at the moment, so I'll keep his score at the end. So let's take a closer look at this piece. This piece was created inside of Blender, which is okay. It's got a very cool theme. I would love to know which theme he's using, but I really like it. And this piece was a derivative of another one of his pieces. And yes, Kellen, we are here chatting about the event. We're going through every piece before we announce the winners and share the prizes. So Chris, I hope you can stick around. You got 20 minutes? Oh no. Okay, so let's jump on it nice and quick. So just give me 1 second. Go through the evaluation nice and quickly. So we're here with Mohammed Emin. Mohammed did not use Beefroiders, so that's not getting the 10 points. That's okay. For technical skill, I consider the subsurface modeling, the shaders, and the general lighting and skill pretty okay. Pretty good. So 14 out of 20. When it comes to detail, relatively good detail. So I gave this 7 out of 10. When it comes to lighting, the frontal lighting, I find like the color and the silhouette with the black background works, but I feel due to the lack of a central composition, a lot of the things were missed. So for example, this weapon up here gets lost in the background because it's dark, and also I can't see the weapon very well. The detail on the chair I lost. The flames on the side here, on the pipes, things could have been improved with some lighting to bring out the shape, but in general it's relatively okay. So when it comes to lighting and composition, lighting I gave you 6 out of 10, and composition, since this is a central piece, because the logo is up here on the top left, and this is a central piece, similar to the same issue we had with Slink, is that things feel a little bit off. So things will have a higher weight on the side. When it comes to the composition of the model, I feel like we're missing out on so much detail when we could have had a better story. So in composition, I gave it 5 out of 10. When it comes to story, I like the piece, I like the character, but I'm not sure what's the general goal of the plane. Is the plane coming towards us and attacking us? Or is it on the tarmac? Or is it parked? But we could see that it's got the flames on, but there's no motion blur on the blades. So is it on? Is it off? And concerning the gun, do we know what it's looking at? Is it a scope? Is it a radar? Is it a gun? We're not sure what it is. So when it comes to story, there's huge potential. Something could be happening, similar to what you did earlier with the plane taking off and landing. But unfortunately, it did not hit that target. So that's 3 out of 10. When it comes to style, the subdivided cartoon style, I thought it was very good with the kind of stylized realistic shaders, which is very cool. I gave that 7 out of 10. Very good. When it comes to originality, it's a very original model that you created, and I consider it quite nice. So I gave it 10 out of 20. That's pretty good. Now comes Quacker's piece. There's Quacker here today. Let's take a closer look. Okay. We don't know, is there a fire inside the engines too? Was one of White Rooster's questions. And he wants to know, did it get, yeah, that's one of those things that also kind of is conflicting. Is it on fire inside? Is it a disaster? Things like that. So Killian is coming up. He's mentioned that he hasn't properly submitted his piece yet. But unfortunately, submissions were closed last Friday. So we'll take a look at it either way. All right, so Quackers. Quackers is a really beautiful piece. And this was actually a really hard debate between the top two. In fact, the top two had a difference of 1 point. So if you haven't guessed already, this may be one of them. We're not sure if this is the first one or the other one is the first one. We're not sure, and we're not sure how many total points they have. But when it comes to this, Quackers did use B4Artist quickly to set out the screen capture and created the piece. So that's 10 points. When it comes to technical skill, I considered it he did it right at the last minute, and he did a very good piece, and he drew in the characters, which I thought was very good. And it came to using some shader-like effects on the rings and the star streaks and the actual composition and lighting and things like this. I consider this quite a high skill, so I gave it 19 out of 20, especially when it was done under a deadline. The only thing that I didn't like too much was the low poly aspects of some of the assets, but in general, the depth of the color and the lighting on the 3D models and the way he did it was really, really cool. I consider that quite a high skill. So when it comes to detail, the detail is very nice. I gave this 8 out of 10. Even though it's a minimal piece, he focused on fine bits of detail which really worked quite nicely. The water streaks, the streaks on the satellite, on the planet, onto the stars, onto the actual characters. It was quite good. When it comes to lighting, this piece is compositing and lighting was excellent. If we take a closer look here in this piece here, give me 1 second, view, area, let me just change the shortcut. So with this piece, you can see that here in the dark, we've got the piece here, the bright light over here, the dark values of the water, the mid values of the sky. All of these values works to read the characters, to read the gazebo, to read everything. It was very clear, super clear. And because of that, I gave quite a high score when it comes to lighting. And in this case, the lighting came out 10 out of 10. Very well done. When it comes to composition, also the piece, the flow is very nice. We have the big planet here about the star streak and take you to the gazebo. This gazebo floats into the water. The shadow of the gazebo takes you to the water as well with this line here, brings you back to the planet. It tells your eyes to look everywhere, but not everywhere at once. So it's a very nice way to like journey through the image, see how everything works. And I consider that composition very well done. The Quackers, you did a really good job there, and I gave you 10 out of 10 when it comes to composition. When it comes to story, I like the story. The couple staring out, seeing the world spin around, things like that. I consider it quite nostalgic and a very good story with the way that you bring the eyes around it as well. So the composition adds to the story. So I gave you 10 out of 10. When it comes to style with the MPR stuff, I gave you 10 out of 10 too, well executed. And when it comes to originality, this is where I had to dock it a little bit versus the competition of first place and second place. I had to dock the originality because it looks a lot like a synthwave or a lo-fi type of YouTube art that I've seen before, with a theme that I have also seen before, but it's still pretty good. I gave you 17 out of 20. So Your total points, I will keep it for the end. Currently, the points that we haven't had in total mentioned is by Quackers, Muhammad Ahmed, and Kumarai. But we're going to now talk about Shinzo. So Shinzo here, he has created a piece from geometry nodes or some other type of effect, which I thought was really interesting. Unfortunately, based on the criteria, it's going to be a little bit of a difficult piece to compete with everybody else. He did use B for Artist though, which was kind of nice. I'm glad you did. Also Cycles was really nice. The final end result was really beautiful. And I think that's kind of cool. For technical skill, I know it's geometry nodes, and to make it look very nice and rendered like that, it does take some effort. I gave you 12 out of 20. When it comes to detail, there is detail, but it is a pattern-based detail, motion graphics. So I had to lower this down because it did not complement to the final original concept of creativity. The detail is only 3 out of 10. When it comes to lighting, the lighting is very clear, brings out the edges of the pieces, it brings out the reflections very nicely. There's a very clear system like this, so I gave you 6 out of 10. When it comes to composition, it is a almost orthographic piece, but it's not. So I thought it was very interesting, and it's a very hard one to use as a composition because it is a pattern. So in this case, I had to give you 4 out of 10 because there is no focal point. It's the difficult one to do when it comes to patterns. When it comes to a general pattern, you focus on the gold over the white, which is nice. Then there's a blue. So in total, that's 13 in aesthetics, 13 out of 30. When it comes to story, I gave it 2 out of 10, mainly because there is very little story. And that's probably due to the lack of focal point. But it is a good piece, okay? Concerning style, with motion graphics and the actual effect, I gave you 6 out of 10 because you did achieve that pattern and the motion graphics quite well. When it comes to originality, it's an original piece for a splash screen. I commend you for that. It was a very bold and brave choice to do. I gave you 8 out of 20. So when it comes to killing small, sorry. So this is a very fun piece that came in almost last minute as well. So let me just read. Comments are going everywhere. Someone feels in danger. Wi-Fi moment. Still there. Let me just check the comments. Okay, so Killian, we're nearly close to the end. All right, so Killian, since you're here and connected, which I'm glad you could make it, would you like me to give you the score? Give me the low scores, he says. All right, let's go through your evaluation and roast you. All right. So Killian, did you use B for Artist in this particular piece, or was this done in Blender? You did not. Okay, so you missed out on 10 points. That's unfortunate. Okay, so next one, concerning technical skill. I noticed that you used a lot of good sculpting. The muscles are really interesting. It's a really interesting way of working on this, so I gave you quite a high technical skill. I know sculpting is not easy, so I gave you 12 out of 20. When it comes to detail, the detail is quite good, quite high. So I gave you 6 out of 10. Though you used the default mesh as part of the actual final models. When it comes to lighting, I really like the dynamics of the lines on the edges, the shadows, the light onto the actual characters. They're kind of got a gobo in front of them, and that the dark silhouettes, the light, and the other guys coming in the white stripe. That type of lighting and composition I consider quite an achievement, even though you did it quite quickly. So I gave you 7 out of 10 on lighting and 7 out of 10 in compositing. When it comes to story, well, the story is very clear. We got 2 monkeys that are flexing against each other with a huge battle of flexing out, squeezing all their muscles and getting into it. I thought that was a really clear story. And the composition of the story, one of them thinks he's better than the other, and the other guy's like, yeah, right. But he's kind of frightened. That story is very clear, kind of funny. So I gave you 9 out of 10. When it comes to style, it's kind of the goofy, kind of weird sculpting and a proportional detail, I gave you 9 out of 10. When it comes to originality, I gave you 8 out of 20. Mainly because you used the models before. These models up in the head here. I wasn't sure. So smelling, you did not too bad. So the final piece, the final art, savage. You did not, that was savage. Yeah, sorry about that. There is a bias in the server. And I have to admit, but your score was pretty good. You had 62 out of 100. Your skill really brought you up there. So now we have standing pad. Standing pad is connected into the server, but not connected here at the moment. That's not bad. Yeah, not bad. Great. So in this piece here, it's interesting. I like the piece, but in this case, the final score is competitive. So in this piece, beef artist was used, so that's the 10 points ahead. And from there, we have technical skill. I realize it requires the shading, the actual character design and modeling, and the texture painting things require some skill to do. So I gave it 12 out of 20. When it comes to detail, I found it a little bit lacking. It could have had more. But its problem was the detail of the actual graffiti or the spray painting. Not sure what's going on. So I gave the 6 out of 10. When it comes to lighting, the lighting is actually quite good. But the composition docks it back. So I gave it 8 out of 10 concerning lighting because the lighting shows onto the heroes quite nicely, especially on this particular character. The values of him in the background, standing pad has never really failed with that, and he does the lighting quite well, especially with the transparent blue shadows and everything, quite nice. But when it comes to composition, which part is the hero? Is he the hero? Or is the cube the hero? Or is the graffiti in the background the hero? In this case, because of a not clear central kind of composition without a clear hero of the piece, I had to give this 4 out of 10. Which could have improved. I guess the pressure of the competition and not knowing what to do got to you, but you've done a good piece in general. So when it comes to story, I know there's huge potential, and here we know the story is very clear. So the little creature with the pen graffitied over the characters, graffitied over the default cube, and worked the beef artist logo, which I thought was pretty interesting. So what's the character going to do next? I gave the story 10 out of 10 because the story is very clear. When it comes to the style, which is kind of stylized, realistic yet rendering, I gave it a pretty good high score of 7 out of 10. When it comes to originality, I gave it a relatively lower end of things, but it's still okay with 8 out of 20. And last but not least, and the final entry for today is White Rooster, who is here today. Hello. You feel like you're in a countdown until your oxygen ends. And Killin also loved the voxel blob. The real hero is the default cube that has been deleted along the way. That's right. And then you spawn it again. Correct. Now we're going on to the next entry. This ship is looking wild, Killin. He's spawned it again to turn into a sphere, yeah. Okay. So, White Rooster, since you're here today, I'm going to share your final score since you're the last one. You've got a very good score, and you're quite a good standing. So let's take a closer look. From what I know, you used Blender to make this piece, which is perfectly fine, but that did put you behind 10 points, which could have made the difference, but that's okay. Concerning detail, really good detail. There are some parts where I thought where the meshes were kind of clipping inside of the other one, or some of the details seem like the textures were trying to put in the detail where the meshes were not, for example, the decals. So I gave it a relatively high score, but there is a tiny bit of room to improve. That's 9 out of 10. Concerning the textures and everything else, the detail is great. When it comes to lighting, I liked it a lot. The lighting of bringing out the lens flares, very J.J. Abrams to that degree. The lighting of the blue and the orange, the reference of what you took it from, since I was paying attention on your work in progress. I gave it 10 out of 10. Though I did have to dock it maybe 1 point for using the HDRI exactly. So 9 out of 10. But in that regard, you did a really nice job. When it comes to composition, the piece is super clear, very easy to read. It kind of spirals around. You kind of see the central piece, and then your eye moves to the engines on full power. And you go around and you see the piece where the logo goes at the top left. It's a very good composition, and it reads very well. And I consider this in AAA quality. I gave it 10 out of 10. When it comes to story, I notice that the piece is flying off and is going into the distance. There's maybe a droid at the top there. Something's happening. I'm not sure what's happening, but it's still something is happening, and it's very clear what's happening. The jet is flying off into the sunset. So that's 8 out of 10. When it comes to style, with your realism, with the flames, with the quality that you wanted, with the realism, I think you hit it. 10 out of 10. When it comes to originality, I had to dock you back a little bit, which is also unfortunate because you could have come up close to the first place, because this is a Star Wars ship. Yes, it's a fan tribute, but it is not your original piece. You're making a tribute or a fan art of a piece. So originality, even though you did a really good rendition of the piece, an unpainted N1, it's still a derivative. So that's 15 out of 20. But that's close. So when it comes to using before artists or the originality, you could have shot yourself ahead, but that never to fair. Your final score is 80 points. Well done, White Rooster. And actually, I think that actually puts you into a very clear lead. So that leads us to the question. Who is first? Who is second? When it comes to points, who comes first? Who comes third? Who has a close amount of effort? So the first 2 points, which have had maybe 1 point in difference, comes to, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. With first place, we have Quackers. Quackers with 94 points. And second place, we have Kumarai with 93 points. We got that. So well done. Congratulations, Quackers. You got a Tradigitalist tool bag and the FX nodes. And we also have the, and for second place, Kumarai gets the FX nodes and 30 bonus points for the next splash screen, which is quite a significant boost for the next challenge, which comes out later this year, potentially in November. And with that, third place comes with yours at 81 points, or 80 points, sorry, with with Rooster in third place. And honorable mentions with higher scores as well versus everybody else is with Killin, Standing Pat, and also Chris Brad. And everybody else also got higher than mostly 40 to 50 points in general. So that's the final result. Elena with 52, Chris Brad with 61, which is an honorable mention, Slink with 50 points, Kumarai with 93, Marty Fouts with 43, Ahmed Emin with 52, Quackers with 94, Shinzo at 51, Small Killin with 62, sorry I spelled your name wrong, Standing Pad at 65, and White Rooster at 80. So well done, the strong top 3. So we have the final winner. And for everybody who competed, we also have a very special gift for you. And this is done by Plebes, kindly provided by Plebes for everybody. And this is the Wall Draw Geometry Nodes Kit, which has a value of €7.50 available to you for free, which contains 16 pre-made setups, 16 procedural stone materials and mortar shaders, mud and ground, and a system to draw with curves your different types of wall shapes, where you draw an intersection and it removes the walls. So everyone who competed, you'll be getting a link as soon as I finish this today, and they're already included in the asset browser, and you already have the materials in the asset browser too. So some A-grade materials, some A-grade fun interactive wall drawing techniques, and some other systems that you can use to work with this. So thank you, Plebes, for sharing this. Thank you, everybody, for competing. So I'm happy that you got this. And everyone who got first, second, and third place, stay in tune for your gifts. And I will see you in the next competition. So just to keep in mind, White Rooster and Kumarai, you both have a 30-point lead in the next competition. So I would hope to see you in the next competition coming October or November. So thank you, everybody, for connecting today. And since those of you who have competed and would like to talk, I would love to ask you some questions about your pieces. So if you want to open up your microphone, I'll be more than happy, and we can finish the event here. Let's just check and see my time. Yeah, we're close. So we have about 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions and answer them. And thank you, everybody. So I hope that was fun. I hope you had a good time. And I will hope the feedback was useful. And yes, I love the splash screens that have come in, and I'm really happy to see this piece. So just to give you an idea of what the final splash screen is going to look like, here it is right here. B4 Artist 3.6.0 by Crackers. Really well done. And it was submitted at last minute, which actually did you some favors. Technical feat that was. The random clapping sound is killing me. You did really well, White Rooster. You mentioned that he better than he thought. Cullen also mentions, great job, everyone. Good job. Oh, I had my computer volume muted, so the clapping did not go live, unfortunately. We also got a comment that somebody mentioned that the wing of one of your pieces, White Rooster, is thinner than the actual. It's quite thin compared to the body. Other than that, the tail is kind of cool. Oh, and just to give you the note, the splash screen today was provided from my latest episode of the Android Repair Shop for Teaching Unknown. I've already started working on the next episode. So it's going to come out soon in the next couple of days, hopefully. White Rooster, thanks for connecting. Thanks for competing. I will send you a link in Discord, so pay attention to what's going on. Also, Chris Bird has a new piece that he wanted to share with us with the new shaders. Just open that up and take a closer look. Oh wow. It's the Suzanne in the atmosphere. Yeah, these clouds look very nice. Okay. Well done. Crackers, you got the Tradigitalist tool bag, and I will send you the link soon. Okay, everybody. So that's it for today. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. And everybody, with their good efforts and their all competitions, was really great. I'm really happy that you competed. Super honored that you did. I hope you guys had fun and enjoyed the prizes too. So stay tuned for the next competition. Hopefully I'll have another type of competition for you sooner with some extra prizes as well. And with that, I'll see you in the next Splash Screen event, and I'll see you next Friday, same time, same place, for the next Q&A and critique with another special guest. Have a good one. And thanks for connecting Munar and Lolo207 on Twitch as well, and for everybody else who was here. So have a good weekend, everyone.